Nurse Amanda Chen adjusted her stethoscope as she entered the platinum-level VIP suite on the 42nd floor of Manhattan General Hospital. The patient, tech billionaire Marcus Wellington, had been admitted for routine cardiac monitoring, but had already gone through 5 different nurses in 3 days. "I specifically requested a different nurse," Marcus said, without looking up from his tablet, his voice dripping with entitlement. "Someone more appropriate for a patient of my caliber." Amanda maintained her professional composure, despite his obvious dismissiveness. "I'm Amanda Chen, your registered nurse for this shift. I have 15 years of cardiac intensive care experience." Marcus finally looked up, his expression showing clear disapproval. "I don't care about your credentials, I care about competence. Don't touch anything expensive, don't speak unless spoken to, and keep your medical opinions to yourself." What Marcus didn't know was that in less than 2 hours, his arrogance would nearly cost him his life, and the nurse he was dismissing would become the only thing standing between him and death. If this story resonates with you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us in the comments where you're watching from today. The VIP suite at Manhattan General Hospital redefined luxury healthcare, featuring Italian marble floors imported from Carrara at a cost of $200,000, crystal chandeliers handcrafted by master artisans in Vienna, panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of Central Park, and amenities that rivaled the finest 5-star hotels in the world. The space cost $15,000 per night and catered exclusively to celebrities, politicians, tech moguls, and business titans who demanded absolute privacy and premium treatment during their medical care. The suite occupied the entire southwest corner of the 42nd floor, spanning over 3,000 square feet of meticulously designed space that blended medical functionality with luxury accommodations. Every detail had been crafted to appeal to patients who were accustomed to controlling their environment through wealth and influence, from the temperature-controlled wine cellar to the soundproof conference room equipped with military-grade encryption technology. Marcus Wellington had built his $50 billion fortune through a series of revolutionary tech startups that fundamentally transformed social media algorithms, artificial intelligence applications, and digital communication platforms used by billions of people worldwide. At 45, he commanded more wealth and influence than most small countries, living in a rarefied atmosphere where money could solve virtually any problem and purchase virtually any service or outcome. His admission to Manhattan General Hospital was precautionary, following chest pains and shortness of breath, during a particularly intense board meeting where he had been negotiating a hostile takeover worth $30 billion. His personal physician, Dr. Richard Steinberg, who charged $5,000 per consultation and served only ultra-high net worth individuals, had recommended immediate cardiac monitoring in a hospital setting, despite Marcus's protests that he was too busy for medical interruptions. "I don't have time for medical drama," Marcus had told Dr. Steinberg during their consultation in his private physician's office, which resembled a luxury club more than a medical facility. "I'm in the middle of the biggest acquisition in tech history. Can't this wait until next month?" But Dr. Steinberg, despite his deference to wealthy clients, recognized genuine cardiac warning signs that couldn't be ignored regardless of business priorities or financial considerations. "Marcus, your symptoms could indicate serious heart problems that require immediate evaluation. Delaying medical care could be life-threatening, regardless of how important your business deals might be." The conversation had highlighted a fundamental tension that characterized Marcus's relationship with healthcare throughout his adult life. He approached medical care the same way he approached business negotiations, with the assumption that money guaranteed superior outcomes and that his wealth entitled him to treatment that ordinary patients couldn't access or afford. Marcus had specifically demanded the Platinum Suite and insisted that only Manhattan General's most senior physicians be involved in his care, regardless of their availability or clinical expertise with his particular medical condition. He had also requested that his medical team sign additional confidentiality agreements beyond standard medical privacy protections, ensuring that details of his hospitalization wouldn't leak to business competitors or financial media outlets. The suite itself had been designed by the same architectural firm that created Marcus's private residences in the Hamptons, Aspen, and Monaco. The main patient room featured a custom-designed hospital bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, hypoallergenic silk pillows, and an integrated entertainment system that provided access to global financial markets, secure communication networks, and personal entertainment platforms. Adjacent to the patient room was an elegant sitting area furnished with Italian leather chairs, Persian rugs worth more than most people's annual salaries, and original artwork by contemporary masters, including pieces by Basquiat and Hockney that Marcus had loaned from his personal collection to make the space feel more familiar and comfortable. The suite's private kitchen was staffed by executive chefs trained at Le Cordon Bleu who could prepare any cuisine that patients might desire, from molecular gastronomy to traditional comfort foods, all while accommodating specific dietary restrictions and medical nutritional requirements. The kitchen featured professional-grade appliances, a climate-controlled wine storage system, and direct access to premium food suppliers who could deliver exotic ingredients within hours. A dedicated conference room allowed patients to conduct business meetings without leaving the medical facility, equipped with secure video conferencing technology, multiple large-screen displays, and soundproofing that prevented confidential business discussions from being overheard by medical staff or other patients. The room could accommodate up to 12 people for board meetings, contract negotiations, or strategic planning sessions. Guest quarters provided comfortable accommodations for family members, business associates, or personal staff who needed to remain close to patients during extended hospitalizations. These rooms featured luxury hotel amenities, including marble bathrooms, premium linens, and concierge services that could arrange everything from restaurant reservations to private transportation. Marcus had arrived at Manhattan General in a convoy of luxury vehicles including his personal armored Mercedes Maybach, 2 security SUVs carrying his protection detail, and a support vehicle transporting his business equipment and personal belongings. His entourage included his chief of security, executive assistant, personal lawyer, communications director, and chief technology officer, who needed to maintain his business operations during his medical care. The hospital's administration had accommodated Marcus's security requirements by providing additional access controls, private elevator service, and coordination with his personal protection team to ensure that his hospitalization remained confidential and secure from potential threats or unwanted attention from business competitors and financial media. Within hours of his arrival, Marcus's team had transformed the medical suite into a fully functional corporate headquarters, equipped with secure communication lines, multiple computer workstations, financial market monitoring systems, and document storage facilities that allowed him to continue managing his business empire without interruption. The medical staff assigned to Marcus's care represented Manhattan General's most experienced and prestigious practitioners, assembled specifically to meet his demands for premium medical attention. Dr. Harrison Webb, the hospital's chief of cardiology, commanded consultation fees of $2,000 per visit and typically served only the institution's most exclusive patients, including celebrities, politicians, and business leaders who valued privacy and personalized attention. Dr. Webb had trained at Harvard Medical School, completed his residency at Massachusetts General Hospital, and pursued fellowship training in advanced cardiac interventions at the Cleveland Clinic before establishing his practice treating high-profile patients who required discretion and premium medical care. His clientele included Fortune 500 CEOs, prominent entertainers, and political figures who needed medical treatment that wouldn't compromise their public image or business interests. The cardiology team also included Dr. Maria Santos, a specialist in cardiac imaging who had developed innovative diagnostic techniques that were used by hospitals worldwide, and Dr. James Liu, an expert in cardiac electrophysiology, who had pioneered treatments for complex heart rhythm disorders. Both physicians had been specifically recruited by Marcus's team to ensure that he received the most advanced cardiac care available anywhere in the world. However, the nursing assignments for Marcus's care had proved far more challenging than assembling his physician team. During his 3-day hospitalization, Marcus had expressed dissatisfaction with each nursing professional who had been assigned to his care, complaining that they failed to understand the level of service and accommodation that he expected as a premium patient. His complaints about nursing staff had been consistently focused on what he perceived as inadequate deference to his status and wealth. Marcus expected nurses to function more like highly educated personal servants than independent healthcare professionals, performing non-medical tasks like organizing his business documents, coordinating his conference calls, and accommodating his meeting schedules rather than focusing on clinical care and medical monitoring. "These nurses don't seem to understand that I'm not an ordinary patient," Marcus had complained to Dr. Webb during their morning consultation. "I need someone who recognizes the level of service that I'm paying for and can provide care that meets my standards for excellence and accommodation." The first nurse assigned to Marcus's care had been Jennifer Walsh, a 20-year veteran of intensive care nursing who had managed some of the most complex cardiac cases in the hospital's history. But Marcus had requested her reassignment after she refused to postpone his scheduled medication administration to accommodate a business conference call with Asian markets that was running longer than expected. "Medical protocols can't be delayed for business convenience," Jennifer had explained professionally. "Your cardiac medications need to be administered on schedule to maintain therapeutic levels and prevent complications." But Marcus had interpreted her commitment to medical protocols as insubordination and lack of customer service orientation, demanding that Dr. Webb assign nursing staff who would be more accommodating to his business needs and scheduling preferences. The second nurse, David Martinez, had been reassigned after refusing to use his medical credentials to provide Marcus's business associates with detailed health information that could be used to assess his fitness for continued leadership of his technology empire. Medical privacy laws prohibited sharing patient information without explicit consent, but Marcus had expected his nursing staff to make exceptions for his business requirements. "I understand your business concerns," David had explained, "but I'm legally and ethically obligated to protect your medical privacy unless you provide specific written authorization for information sharing." Marcus had viewed this protection of his legal rights as an unnecessary obstacle to his business operations, preferring nursing staff who would prioritize his convenience over professional protocols and legal requirements. The third and fourth nurses had been reassigned for similar conflicts between Marcus's expectations for personal service and their commitments to professional nursing practice. Each had been experienced, competent healthcare professionals who provided excellent medical care while maintaining appropriate boundaries between clinical responsibilities and customer accommodation. Dr. Webb had grown increasingly concerned about Marcus's attitude toward nursing staff and his apparent misunderstanding of the professional role that nurses played in hospital care. The finest nurses at Manhattan General were clinical experts whose primary obligation was patient safety and medical excellence rather than customer service and personal accommodation. "Marcus, I need to explain something about nursing care," Dr. Webb had said during one of their consultations. "The nurses I assign to your care are medical professionals with advanced education and clinical expertise. Their job is to monitor your condition, administer treatments, and ensure your safety, not to function as personal assistants or customer service representatives." But Marcus had dismissed Dr. Webb's explanation, insisting that his financial investment in premium medical care entitled him to nursing staff who would accommodate his business needs and defer to his authority in all matters not directly related to emergency medical situations. Amanda Chen represented exactly the kind of nursing expertise that had made Manhattan General Hospital internationally renowned for clinical excellence and patient outcomes. With 15 years of experience in cardiac intensive care, she had managed some of the most challenging and complex cases in modern medicine, developing expertise that was recognized by physicians, hospital administrators, and nursing colleagues throughout the healthcare industry. Her clinical background included extensive experience with heart transplant patients, complex cardiac surgery recovery, advanced cardiac monitoring systems, and emergency cardiac interventions that required split-second decision-making and flawless technical execution. She had authored numerous articles in professional nursing journals about cardiac care innovations and had served as a mentor to hundreds of nursing students and new graduates who sought her guidance. Amanda's reputation extended far beyond Manhattan General Hospital, with speaking invitations from medical conferences around the world and consulting opportunities with pharmaceutical companies developing new cardiac medications and medical device manufacturers creating innovative monitoring equipment. Her expertise was particularly recognized in the areas of cardiac arrhythmia management and post-operative cardiac surgery care, where her clinical insights had contributed to improved patient outcomes and reduced complication rates. But Amanda's professional excellence was measured by patient outcomes and clinical results, rather than customer satisfaction scores or accommodation of unreasonable demands. She approached nursing as a sophisticated medical profession, requiring scientific knowledge, clinical judgment, critical thinking, and therapeutic intervention, rather than a service industry focused on entertainment and personal convenience. Her approach to patient care was rooted in evidence-based practice and commitment to optimal health outcomes rather than customer service principles that prioritized patient satisfaction over medical necessity. While she treated all patients with respect and dignity, she never compromised her clinical standards or professional protocols to accommodate inappropriate demands or unsafe requests. Amanda had worked with numerous wealthy and prominent patients during her career at Manhattan General, including celebrities, politicians, business leaders, and international dignitaries who sought medical care at the hospital's premium facilities. She understood the unique challenges that accompanied caring for high-profile patients who were accustomed to controlling their environment through wealth and influence. Her experience had taught her that excellent nursing care required maintaining professional boundaries while providing compassionate expert clinical services regardless of a patient's wealth, social status, or public prominence. The medical needs of cardiac patients were fundamentally the same, whether they occupied premium suites or standard hospital rooms, and her clinical expertise was equally important for all patients, regardless of their ability to pay for luxury accommodations. When Amanda received her assignment to Marcus Wellington's care, she had been briefed about his complaints regarding previous nursing staff and his expectations for elevated service standards that went beyond traditional medical care responsibilities. The nursing supervisor had warned her about his demanding personality and his tendency to treat nurses like personal employees rather than healthcare professionals. "Amanda, this patient has been challenging for our entire nursing staff," explained Patricia Williams, the ICU nursing supervisor who had worked with Amanda for over a decade. "He has unrealistic expectations about what nursing care involves and seems to think that paying for the Platinum Suite means that nurses should function as personal assistants rather than medical professionals." Patricia had also explained that Marcus's business activities within the medical suite were creating an environment that was incompatible with proper cardiac care and recovery. He's conducting high-stress business meetings, taking calls at all hours, and maintaining a pace that could seriously compromise his cardiac recovery. Previous nurses have tried to address this, but he's been resistant to medical advice that conflicts with his business priorities. Amanda understood the challenges she would face in providing appropriate medical care to a patient who had fundamental misconceptions about healthcare and unrealistic expectations about nursing responsibilities. But she was confident in her clinical expertise and professional experience, and she was committed to providing excellent cardiac care regardless of personality conflicts or unreasonable demands. When Amanda entered Marcus's suite at the beginning of her shift, she was immediately struck by the chaotic business activity that had transformed the medical environment into a corporate headquarters, where healthcare appeared to be secondary to financial operations and deal negotiations. The suite was bustling with activity that had nothing to do with medical care or cardiac recovery. Marcus's executive assistant, Rachel Davidson, was coordinating conference calls with Asian markets while managing multiple phones and computer screens that displayed real-time financial data from around the world. His legal counsel, Jonathan Pierce, was reviewing merger documents worth billions of dollars while taking calls from law firms in New York, London, and Tokyo. His security team was monitoring the premises for potential threats while coordinating with the hospital's security department and maintaining communication with his corporate headquarters. The medical environment had been completely overwhelmed by business operations that created stress, noise, and constant interruption, exactly the opposite of what cardiac patients required for proper healing and recovery. Marcus's heart condition demanded periods of rest, stress reduction, and focus on healing, but his suite resembled a high-pressure corporate war room where business crises were managed 24 hours per day. Amanda immediately recognized that the chaotic business environment was not only inappropriate for cardiac care, but potentially dangerous for a patient who had been admitted with signs of heart rhythm irregularities and elevated blood pressure. The constant stress and overstimulation could exacerbate his cardiac condition, and interfere with the healing process that his treatment was designed to support. Medical research had clearly established that cardiac recovery required periods of rest, stress reduction, and focus on healing rather than continued exposure to the high-pressure business environment that had likely contributed to his heart problems in the first place. The suite's transformation into a corporate headquarters represented exactly the kind of environment that cardiologists recommended avoiding during recovery from cardiac events. "Mr. Wellington, I'm Amanda Chen, your registered nurse for this shift," she announced professionally while reviewing his medical chart and assessing the cardiac monitoring equipment that was tracking his heart rhythm, blood pressure, and oxygen levels. "I need to check your vital signs and review your cardiac status." Marcus was in the middle of a heated telephone conversation with his chief financial officer about quarterly earnings projections that would be released to the financial media later that week. The discussion involved complex financial calculations, market timing considerations, and strategic decisions about how to present corporate performance to investors and analysts who could dramatically impact his company's stock price. He barely acknowledged Amanda's introduction, continuing to speak loudly into his phone about stock buyback programs and earnings management strategies, while gesturing impatiently for her to wait until his business call concluded. When Amanda approached with blood pressure monitoring equipment, he held up his hand dismissively and pointed toward a chair across the room, indicating that she should sit down and wait for his permission to proceed with medical assessment. "Sir, I need to complete your medical assessment now," Amanda said firmly but respectfully, her voice carrying the authority that came from 15 years of managing cardiac patients and medical emergencies. "Your cardiac monitoring shows some irregular readings that require immediate evaluation." The cardiac monitors displayed on the wall-mounted screens showed heart rhythm patterns that concerned Amanda based on her extensive experience with cardiac arrhythmias and electrical conduction disorders. The irregularities were subtle but significant, suggesting that Marcus's stress levels and business activities might be affecting his heart rhythm in ways that could become medically dangerous if not addressed promptly. Marcus ended his call abruptly and turned toward Amanda with obvious irritation and frustration that his important business discussion had been interrupted by what he perceived as routine medical procedures that could be postponed until more convenient timing. "I don't know what previous nurses told you, but I run this room, not you," Marcus said with the authoritative tone he typically used for subordinate employees in his corporate hierarchy. "Medical procedures happen when I'm ready for them, not when you decide to interrupt important business that involves billions of dollars and thousands of jobs." His response revealed a fundamental misunderstanding about the relationship between wealth and medical care that Amanda had encountered before among patients who confused premium amenities with control over medical protocols. While money could purchase luxury accommodations, private rooms, and premium physician attention, it could not override physiological requirements for healing or change the medical necessities that governed cardiac care. "Mr. Wellington, I understand that you have important business responsibilities that require your attention," Amanda replied calmly while maintaining professional composure despite his dismissive attitude. "However, my primary obligation is to monitor your cardiac condition and ensure your medical safety. That requires regular vital sign assessments and clinical evaluations that can't be postponed for business activities, regardless of their importance or financial implications." Amanda's response established a professional boundary that was unfamiliar territory for Marcus, who was accustomed to purchasing compliance with his preferences and controlling his environment through financial leverage and corporate authority. Healthcare represented one of the few areas where wealth could enhance comfort and privacy, but couldn't override medical necessities or professional protocols that prioritized patient safety over customer convenience. Marcus's business empire had been built on the fundamental principle that everything had a price, and that sufficient financial resources could purchase any desired outcome, from regulatory approvals to competitive advantages to political influence. He had successfully bought companies, influenced regulatory decisions, shaped market conditions, and eliminated business obstacles through strategic financial investments and aggressive negotiation tactics. The idea that his cardiac care would proceed according to medical protocols and clinical judgment rather than his personal preferences and scheduling convenience challenged his fundamental assumptions about power, control, and the relationship between money and desired outcomes. "Listen carefully," Marcus said with the tone he reserved for board meetings where he was asserting dominance over resistant executives or uncooperative business partners. "I pay more for this room than most people make in a year. That means I get service that reflects that investment. Your job is to provide medical care when I request it, not to interrupt my work with unnecessary procedures that could wait until I'm available." The comment revealed Marcus's fundamental misconception about the nature of medical care and the professional obligations that governed nursing practice. He had confused healthcare with hospitality services, assuming that his financial investment entitled him to control not just the timing and delivery of medical care, but also the clinical protocols that protected his health and safety. Amanda had encountered this attitude before among wealthy patients who expected medical staff to function as highly educated servants rather than independent healthcare professionals with scientific training and clinical expertise. Her response required balancing respect for the patient with maintenance of professional boundaries that protected both the quality of medical care and the dignity of nursing practice. "Mr. Wellington, I respect your business responsibilities and understand that they're important to you," Amanda explained with the patience that came from years of educating patients about medical necessities. "However, my professional obligation is to provide safe, effective medical care based on clinical standards and evidence-based protocols rather than convenience or personal timing preferences. Your cardiac condition requires monitoring every 4 hours, regardless of business activities or personal schedules." The professional boundary that Amanda established challenged Marcus's expectations about how healthcare should accommodate his wealth and status. In his business world, everyone from senior executives to support staff adjusted their schedules and priorities to accommodate his needs and defer to his authority. The concept that medical care operated according to different principles was foreign to his experience and threatening to his sense of control. "I think there's been a misunderstanding about my expectations and your role here," Marcus said, his voice carrying the authority he used in boardroom negotiations, where he typically dominated discussions through a combination of financial leverage and intimidation tactics. "I don't need a nurse who thinks she knows better than I do about my own medical care and business priorities. I need someone who understands that I'm paying for personalized service and professional accommodation that reflects the premium I'm paying for this care." Marcus walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered panoramic views of Central Park, considering his options for managing what he perceived as an insubordinate employee who didn't understand the service expectations associated with premium medical care. In his business world, personnel who didn't meet his standards or accommodate his requirements were simply replaced with more compliant alternatives who better understood their role in supporting his success. "I'm going to speak with Dr. Webb about reassigning you to other patients who might be more appropriate for your approach to nursing care," Marcus announced, with the confidence of someone who had never encountered a situation where his preferences couldn't be accommodated through financial pressure or administrative intervention. "I need nursing staff who understand their role in providing the level of care and service that I'm paying for." Amanda had anticipated this response based on her briefing about Marcus's previous conflicts with nursing staff and his pattern of requesting reassignments when nurses maintained professional boundaries. She was prepared to address the fundamental misconceptions about nursing care that often arose with demanding patients who confused medical expertise with customer service. "That's certainly your right, Mr. Wellington," Amanda replied calmly while continuing to review his cardiac monitoring data and noting concerning changes in his heart rhythm patterns. "But I should mention that your cardiac monitoring has shown several irregular patterns since your admission that require careful observation and clinical assessment. Any nursing staff assigned to your care will need to perform the same clinical evaluations and follow the same medical protocols that I've described." Her response highlighted the reality that changing nurses wouldn't change medical necessities or eliminate the professional obligations that governed cardiac care. The monitoring, assessment, and intervention requirements were determined by his medical condition rather than his personal preferences, and any competent nurse would need to follow the same clinical protocols regardless of his satisfaction with their customer service approach. Marcus realized that Amanda was calling his bluff and demonstrating that his threats to request different nursing staff wouldn't solve his fundamental conflict with medical protocols and clinical requirements. Her professional confidence suggested that she was secure in her clinical expertise and comfortable with her role as a healthcare provider rather than a service worker who could be intimidated into compliance. "So you seem to think that clinical protocols override patient preferences and accommodation," Marcus said, his frustration evident as he recognized that his usual tactics for controlling personnel weren't effective with healthcare professionals who prioritized medical standards over customer satisfaction. "But I think you'll find that hospital administrators understand the importance of keeping premium patients satisfied with their care experience." The threat was implicit but clear. Marcus was suggesting that he would use his financial influence and relationship with hospital leadership to force Amanda to accommodate his demands or face professional consequences for failing to provide satisfactory customer service to a major revenue source for the institution. Amanda had heard similar threats before from wealthy patients who assumed that their financial contributions to hospitals would override professional nursing protocols and clinical standards. She understood that her response would set the tone for their professional relationship and establish whether she would be able to provide appropriate medical care or would be forced to function as a personal service provider. "Mr. Wellington, I understand your concerns about service quality, and I want to assure you that you'll receive excellent medical care during your stay here," Amanda said, with the professional confidence that came from knowing that her clinical expertise was valued by physicians and hospital administrators who understood the difference between medical care and hospitality services. "My focus is on ensuring that you receive expert nursing care based on 15 years of cardiac intensive care experience. That means monitoring your condition, administering medications according to prescribed protocols, and recognizing early signs of complications that could threaten your health and recovery." The emphasis on medical expertise rather than customer accommodation was precisely what Marcus had been trying to avoid in his interactions with nursing staff. He wanted healthcare professionals who would defer to his authority and accommodate his business requirements rather than asserting their own clinical judgment and professional responsibilities. But what Marcus didn't understand was that his stress level and confrontational attitude were actually exacerbating his cardiac condition in ways that were becoming medically significant and potentially dangerous. The irregular heart rhythms that Amanda had detected were being worsened by his elevated blood pressure and emotional agitation, creating a physiological response that his wealth and authority were powerless to control or modify. The cardiac monitors displayed real-time data about his heart function that told a story of increasing stress and cardiovascular strain that was directly related to his business activities and confrontational interactions. His heart rate was elevated beyond normal ranges for a resting patient, his blood pressure readings were climbing toward dangerous levels, and his heart rhythm was showing signs of electrical instability that could progress to serious arrhythmias. Amanda recognized these warning signs from her extensive experience with cardiac patients, understanding that emotional stress and elevated blood pressure could trigger cardiac events that required immediate medical intervention. She documented these concerning changes in his medical record while considering whether to alert Dr. Webb immediately or continue monitoring his condition while attempting to encourage stress reduction. "Mr. Wellington, I'm going to check your vital signs now," Amanda announced firmly, while approaching with blood pressure monitoring equipment and cardiac assessment tools. "Your heart rhythm is showing some changes that need immediate evaluation." But Marcus was already reaching for his phone to make another business call, this time to his head of mergers and acquisitions, about a time-sensitive deal that was scheduled to close before Asian markets opened. The call involved complex international negotiations with multiple parties across different time zones, requiring his immediate attention and decision-making authority. "This call can't wait," Marcus said dismissively while dialing the number. "The nurse assessment can happen afterward. I have a $30 billion acquisition that requires my immediate attention, and that takes priority over routine medical procedures." His response demonstrated the fundamental conflict between business priorities and medical necessities that had characterized his entire hospitalization. Marcus couldn't understand that his cardiac condition created physiological requirements that couldn't be negotiated or postponed like business deadlines, and that continued stress and agitation were actively worsening his medical situation. Amanda watched the cardiac monitor displays with growing concern as Marcus's phone conversation became increasingly heated and confrontational. His heart rate was climbing toward 120 beats per minute. His blood pressure was approaching hypertensive crisis levels, and his heart rhythm was showing frequent irregular beats that indicated increasing electrical instability. The medical situation was deteriorating rapidly, while Marcus remained focused on business negotiations that were elevating his stress hormones and placing dangerous strain on his cardiovascular system. Amanda realized that she needed to intervene immediately to prevent a potentially life-threatening cardiac event. "Mr. Wellington, I need you to end this call immediately," Amanda said with urgent authority, while moving toward the cardiac monitoring station to assess the severity of his rhythm changes. "Your heart rhythm is showing dangerous irregularities that require immediate medical attention." But Marcus waved her away impatiently, while continuing his aggressive business discussion, raising his voice to express frustration with legal complications that were delaying the acquisition timeline. His face was becoming flushed with anger and stress. His breathing was becoming rapid and shallow, and his agitation was visible to anyone with medical training. Amanda made the clinical decision to call Dr. Webb immediately, while continuing to monitor Marcus's deteriorating condition. The cardiac arrhythmias were becoming more frequent and pronounced, and she recognized that intervention was needed before his condition progressed to a life-threatening emergency. "Dr. Webb, this is Amanda Chen," she said into the secure phone line that connected directly to the physician communication system. "I need you in the VIP suite immediately. Mr. Wellington's cardiac rhythm is showing signs of serious arrhythmia, and his condition is deteriorating rapidly." Dr. Webb responded immediately, understanding from Amanda's tone and clinical assessment that the situation was urgent and potentially dangerous. "I'm on my way. Prepare for possible cardiac emergency intervention." Meanwhile, Marcus continued his business call, despite Amanda's warnings, completely absorbed in negotiations that required his immediate decision-making about financing structures and regulatory approvals. The stress and intensity of the discussion was pushing his cardiovascular system beyond safe limits, creating conditions that were ideal for triggering the cardiac emergency that Amanda was desperately trying to prevent. Over the next 30 minutes, Marcus's condition continued to deteriorate as he became increasingly agitated during his business negotiations. The acquisition deal was facing unexpected regulatory challenges that threatened to derail months of planning and billions of dollars in projected profits, requiring Marcus to make complex strategic decisions while managing legal complications and financial pressures that would have been stressful under any circumstances. Amanda maintained constant vigilance over his cardiac monitoring while documenting the progressive changes in his heart rhythm and vital signs. His blood pressure had climbed to 180 over 110, approaching levels that could trigger stroke or cardiac arrest. His heart rate was consistently above 120 beats per minute despite his resting position, and the cardiac rhythm showed increasingly frequent irregular beats that indicated dangerous electrical instability. The medical deterioration was directly correlated with his business stress levels, creating a clear cause and effect relationship that demonstrated how emotional and psychological factors could trigger serious cardiac complications. Amanda had witnessed similar situations throughout her career, where patients' refusal to modify stressful activities had led to preventable medical emergencies. "Mr. Wellington's vital signs are showing significant deterioration," Amanda had reported to Dr. Webb during a brief consultation outside the suite, while Marcus was involved in another heated business discussion. "His blood pressure is severely elevated, his heart rate is consistently tachycardic, and he's showing signs of increasing cardiac electrical instability. I'm concerned that his business activities are preventing the rest and stress reduction that his condition requires for safe recovery." Dr. Webb appreciated Amanda's clinical observations and professional expertise, recognizing that her assessment was based on extensive experience with cardiac patients and detailed knowledge of the physiological factors that could impact recovery and trigger complications. Her concerns about Marcus's condition were medically sound and clinically significant, supported by objective monitoring data that showed clear deterioration. "I'll speak with Mr. Wellington immediately about the medical necessity of reducing his stress levels and limiting his business activities," Dr. Webb assured Amanda while reviewing the cardiac monitoring data that she had documented. "But based on his behavior pattern over the past 3 days, I expect he'll be resistant to medical advice that interferes with his business priorities." The conversation reflected a common challenge in treating wealthy and powerful patients who had difficulty accepting that medical conditions imposed limitations that couldn't be overcome through money, willpower, or aggressive negotiation tactics. Marcus's wealth could purchase luxury amenities and privacy, but it couldn't change the physiological requirements for cardiac healing and recovery. When Dr. Webb entered the suite to discuss medical recommendations with Marcus, he found his patient in the middle of a heated video conference with legal teams in New York, London, and Tokyo who were working around the clock to resolve regulatory obstacles that threatened the acquisition timeline. Marcus's face was visibly flushed, his voice was raised in frustration, and his agitation was apparent to anyone with medical training. "Marcus, I need to interrupt this meeting," Dr. Webb said with firm authority while approaching the conference table, where Marcus was surrounded by laptops, financial documents, and communication devices. "Your vital signs are showing concerning changes that require immediate medical attention and intervention." But Marcus held up his hand dismissively while continuing his aggressive business discussion, completely absorbed in legal strategies and financial calculations that required his immediate decision-making authority. The medical crisis that Amanda had detected was escalating rapidly, but Marcus's focus on business prevented him from recognizing the warning signs that his body was providing. "I can't stop this meeting now," Marcus said, without looking away from his screens. "We're on the verge of resolving issues that could make or break this acquisition. The medical discussion can wait 30 minutes until we finish these negotiations." Dr. Webb understood that Marcus was making a potentially fatal decision by prioritizing business over medical care, but he also recognized the pattern of denial and resistance that often characterized patients who were accustomed to controlling their environment through wealth and authority. "Marcus, your heart rhythm is showing dangerous irregularities that could lead to cardiac arrest," Dr. Webb explained, with the urgent tone he reserved for medical emergencies. "This isn't something that can wait for business convenience. We need to address this immediately." Amanda watched the cardiac monitor displays with increasing alarm as Marcus's stress response continued to worsen his cardiac condition. The irregular heartbeats were becoming more frequent and pronounced. His blood pressure readings were approaching stroke levels, and his oxygen saturation was beginning to decline as his cardiovascular system struggled to maintain adequate circulation. The medical data painted a clear picture of a patient whose cardiac condition was being dangerously exacerbated by stress and emotional agitation, creating a situation where continued business activities could trigger life-threatening complications at any moment. "Dr. Webb," Amanda said urgently while pointing to the cardiac monitoring displays, "we need to intervene now. His cardiac rhythm is showing signs of serious ventricular arrhythmia." At that precise moment, as if her words had been prophetic, Marcus suddenly clutched his chest with both hands and gasped for air, his face contorting with severe pain as he dropped his phone and collapsed forward onto the conference table. His skin immediately turned pale and clammy, sweat broke out across his forehead, and his breathing became rapid and shallow, unmistakable signs of cardiac emergency that required immediate life-saving intervention. The transformation from arrogant businessman to medical patient in distress was instantaneous and dramatic. Marcus's wealth, authority, and corporate power became completely irrelevant as his body experienced a medical crisis that could only be addressed through expert clinical care and emergency medical intervention. Amanda immediately shifted into emergency response mode that had been honed through 15 years of managing cardiac crises and life-threatening situations. She moved with practiced efficiency while calling out instructions to Dr. Webb and preparing emergency medications and cardiac monitoring equipment that could address the crisis. "Call a code blue immediately," Amanda instructed Dr. Webb, while beginning to assess Marcus's cardiac rhythm and prepare emergency interventions. "We need the crash cart and emergency cardiac support team in the VIP suite now." Dr. Webb activated the hospital's emergency response system, while Amanda began emergency cardiac assessment and preparation for advanced life support interventions. The luxury suite was suddenly transformed into an intensive care environment, where Marcus's wealth and status were completely irrelevant to his survival. "What's his cardiac status?" Dr. Webb asked while reviewing the monitoring displays that showed dangerous arrhythmias and unstable vital signs. "Ventricular tachycardia with hemodynamic compromise," Amanda reported with clinical precision while preparing emergency medications and cardiac intervention equipment. "Blood pressure dropping rapidly, heart rate over 160, showing signs of cardiogenic shock. We need immediate cardioversion and emergency cardiac stabilization." Marcus's eyes showed terror and confusion as he realized that his body was experiencing a medical crisis that his money couldn't prevent, his authority couldn't control, and his business success couldn't influence. For the first time in decades, he was completely helpless and dependent on other people for his survival, specifically the nursing staff he had been treating with contempt and dismissiveness. "Stay calm, Mr. Wellington," Amanda said with professional composure while monitoring his vital signs and preparing life-saving interventions. "You're experiencing a serious cardiac arrhythmia, but we're going to provide excellent care and get you through this emergency. I need you to try to relax and let us do our work." Her voice carried the authority and competence that came from years of managing cardiac emergencies and life-threatening medical situations, providing reassurance to a patient who was experiencing the most frightening moments of his life. Despite his earlier arrogance and disrespectful behavior, Amanda focused entirely on providing expert medical care without any consideration of personal feelings or professional grievances. The emergency response team arrived within 3 minutes, transforming the luxury suite into a fully functional cardiac intensive care unit equipped with advanced monitoring equipment, emergency medications, defibrillation equipment, and specialized personnel trained in managing life-threatening cardiac events. Marcus's expensive furnishings and business equipment were quickly moved aside to make room for medical equipment that could save his life. "What do we have?" asked Dr. So. Sarah Martinez, the hospital's emergency cardiac specialist, as she entered the suite and began reviewing the monitoring data while assessing Marcus's condition. 45-year-old male with ventricular tachycardia triggered by acute stress response, Amanda reported with the clinical precision that characterized expert nursing practice. Patient was engaged in high-stress business activities despite warnings about cardiac risk. Rhythm started approximately 8 minutes ago during intense business negotiations. Blood pressure has dropped from 180/110 to 90/60. Heart rate currently 170, with signs of hemodynamic instability. Amanda's clinical assessment provided Dr. Martinez with essential information for managing Marcus's cardiac emergency, demonstrating the critical importance of skilled nursing observation and documentation in recognizing early warning signs of cardiac complications and providing accurate information for emergency interventions. The medical team worked with seamless coordination to stabilize Marcus's condition, administering emergency antiarrhythmic medications to correct his heart rhythm while monitoring his blood pressure and preparing for possible electrical cardioversion if medications proved insufficient to restore normal cardiac function. Amanda coordinated the nursing aspects of emergency care with practiced efficiency, anticipating the needs of physicians while ensuring that all emergency protocols were followed correctly and that Marcus received optimal supportive care during the crisis. Her expertise in cardiac emergency management was evident in every aspect of her clinical performance. "Rhythm is responding to amiodarone," Dr. Martinez announced after 15 minutes of intensive intervention while reviewing the cardiac monitor displays. "Heart rate coming down to normal range, blood pressure stabilizing. But this was a serious warning that indicates significant underlying cardiac instability." Marcus watched in stunned silence as the medical professionals he had dismissed as service workers demonstrated expertise and competence that literally saved his life. The nurse he had treated with condescension and disrespect was now managing his emergency care with skills and knowledge that his wealth couldn't purchase and his authority couldn't command. As his heart rhythm gradually returned to normal and his blood pressure stabilized, Marcus began to understand that his attitude and behavior had contributed directly to the medical emergency that could have been fatal. His stress levels, emotional agitation, and refusal to follow medical advice had created the physiological conditions that triggered his cardiac crisis. "The immediate emergency has passed," Dr. Martinez explained, while continuing to monitor Marcus's response to treatment, "but this event indicates that you have significant cardiac instability that requires major lifestyle modifications and strict adherence to medical protocols. The stress and agitation that triggered this episode could easily cause more serious arrhythmias that might not respond to treatment." The medical team prepared to transfer Marcus to the cardiac intensive care unit for continuous monitoring and specialized care designed to prevent future cardiac events. The luxury amenities of the VIP suite would be replaced by advanced medical monitoring and clinical interventions focused on cardiac stabilization and recovery. "Nurse Chen," Marcus said weakly as the emergency team prepared his transfer, his voice barely audible above the sounds of medical equipment. "I owe you an apology, and probably my life." Amanda accepted his acknowledgement with professional grace while continuing to monitor his condition and coordinate his transfer to the appropriate medical environment. "Mr. Wellington, my job is to provide excellent nursing care regardless of circumstances or personal interactions. I'm glad we could help you through this emergency and that you're going to recover." Her response demonstrated the professionalism and dedication that characterized excellent nursing practice, a commitment to patient welfare that transcended personal feelings and focused entirely on healing and recovery rather than personal vindication or professional satisfaction. The transfer to the cardiac intensive care unit marked a dramatic change in Marcus's hospital experience and his understanding of medical care. Gone were the luxury amenities, business accommodations, and personal service that had characterized his VIP suite. In their place was an environment focused entirely on medical monitoring, clinical intervention, and cardiac recovery. The cardiac ICU represented the pinnacle of medical technology and clinical expertise, but its priorities were fundamentally different from the customer service orientation of premium hospital accommodations. Every aspect of the environment was designed to support optimal medical outcomes rather than patient comfort or business convenience. Marcus found himself in a standard ICU room equipped with advanced cardiac monitoring systems, emergency intervention capabilities, and medical equipment that provided real-time assessment of his heart function and overall physiological status. The clinical environment was austere compared to his previous accommodations, but every element served a specific medical purpose related to his cardiac care and recovery. Amanda continued as his primary nurse during his ICU stay, providing the expert cardiac nursing care that was essential for his recovery while monitoring for signs of additional cardiac complications. Her presence provided continuity of care and professional expertise that supported his medical treatment and emotional adjustment to the reality of serious cardiac disease. "How are you feeling, Mr. Wellington?" Amanda asked during her initial assessment in the ICU, her professional demeanor unchanged despite the dramatic events that had preceded his transfer. "Scared," Marcus admitted with honesty. That would have been impossible before his cardiac emergency. "I've never felt so helpless or dependent on other people. I didn't understand that health problems couldn't be solved with money or business strategies." His admission reflected a fundamental shift in perspective that often accompanied serious medical events, where patients gained new understanding of human vulnerability and the limitations of wealth and power in addressing health challenges. In the cardiac intensive care unit, Marcus experienced healthcare as most patients did, dependent on medical professionals for his survival, grateful for competent care, and humbled by the reality that health was more precious and fragile than any business achievement or financial accumulation. The nurses and physicians who cared for him in the ICU were focused on medical excellence and clinical outcomes rather than customer service and personal accommodation. Their expertise commanded his respect in ways that his money and authority never could, and he began to understand the difference between healthcare and hospitality services. "Nurse Chen," Marcus said during one of their interactions, while she was administering cardiac medications and checking his heart rhythm, "I need to understand something. How did you know that my business activities were dangerous for my heart? I felt fine until the moment I collapsed." Amanda appreciated the opportunity to educate Marcus about cardiac physiology and the relationship between stress and heart disease, recognizing that patient education was an essential component of nursing care that could prevent future medical emergencies. "Mr. Wellington, Your cardiac condition makes your heart particularly sensitive to stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol that are released during intense business activities, she explained while reviewing his monitoring data. These hormones increase your heart rate, elevate your blood pressure, and can trigger electrical instability in your heart that leads to dangerous arrhythmias. The explanation helped Marcus understand that his cardiac emergency hadn't been a random medical event, but rather the predictable result of physiological processes that had been exacerbated by his refusal to modify his stressful lifestyle and business activities. "So my business stress was actually triggering the heart problems?" Marcus asked, beginning to understand the connection between his lifestyle choices and his medical condition. "Exactly," Amanda confirmed. "Cardiac patients need to manage their stress levels carefully, because emotional agitation and high-pressure situations can trigger the same kind of cardiac events that brought you to the hospital initially. That's why we were trying to encourage rest and stress reduction instead of continued business activities." Marcus realized that the nursing staff he had dismissed as overly cautious had actually been trying to prevent exactly the kind of medical emergency that had nearly cost his life. Their clinical expertise and professional judgment had been based on medical knowledge rather than arbitrary rules or customer service policies. Over the following days, Amanda spent considerable time educating Marcus about cardiac disease, lifestyle modifications, stress management techniques, and the behavioral changes that would be necessary to prevent future cardiac events. These conversations represented a fundamental shift in their relationship from conflict to collaboration, based on mutual respect and shared commitment to his recovery. "I built my entire business empire on the belief that problems could be solved through aggressive action, financial resources, and strategic pressure," Marcus reflected during one of their educational sessions. "But you can't negotiate with heart disease, and you can't buy your way out of cardiac complications. I had to learn that the hard way." His personal transformation included not just physical recovery, but also psychological and emotional growth that changed his understanding of success, priorities, and the value of human relationships based on care and expertise rather than wealth and power. Amanda observed Marcus's transformation with professional satisfaction, recognizing that serious medical events often provided opportunities for patients to reassess their values and lifestyle choices in ways that supported both physical recovery and personal growth. Mr. Wellington, cardiac events can be frightening, but they can also be opportunities to make positive changes that improve your overall health and quality of life, she told him during a discussion about long-term recovery strategies. "Many of my patients have told me that their heart problems led them to discover what really matters in their lives." The nursing care that Amanda provided extended beyond clinical monitoring and medication administration to include emotional support, patient education, and advocacy that addressed Marcus's psychological and social needs, as well as his medical requirements. When Marcus was medically stable and ready for discharge from the hospital 2 weeks later, he had achieved not only physical recovery, but also significant personal insights about healthcare, professional relationships, and the expertise of healthcare workers who had dedicated their careers to serving others. His discharge planning included comprehensive education about cardiac medications, lifestyle modifications, stress management techniques, and follow-up care requirements that would support his long-term recovery and prevent future cardiac events. "Amanda," Marcus said on the day of his discharge, using her first name for the first time since their initial meeting, "I want to ask you about something that's been troubling me. How many other patients have you treated who were as disrespectful and demanding as I was during your first shift?" Amanda considered her response carefully, recognizing an opportunity to educate Marcus about the broader challenges faced by healthcare workers and the importance of treating all medical professionals with dignity and respect. "Mr. Wellington, healthcare workers encounter difficult situations regularly, and we're trained to provide excellent care regardless of personal interactions or challenging circumstances," she replied diplomatically. "But I will say that mutual respect between patients and healthcare providers creates better conditions for healing and recovery for everyone involved." Her response highlighted the broader implications of patient behavior for healthcare quality and professional satisfaction, while avoiding personal criticism that might undermine the positive relationship they had developed during his recovery. Marcus understood the deeper message in Amanda's diplomatic response and felt motivated to use his experience and resources to create positive changes that would benefit healthcare workers and improve patient care throughout the healthcare system. "I want to do something meaningful to acknowledge the excellent care I received and to support nursing professionals who provide the kind of expertise that saved my life," Marcus told Amanda. "Would you help me understand how I could make a positive contribution to healthcare and nursing education?" His request represented a fundamental transformation from demanding customer to grateful patient who wanted to give back to the healthcare professionals and institutions that had supported his recovery. Marcus's recovery and personal transformation led to the establishment of the Amanda Chen Excellence in Nursing Foundation, a comprehensive initiative designed to support nursing education, professional development, and recognition throughout the healthcare system. His initial contribution of $10 million represented just the beginning of a long-term commitment to improving conditions for healthcare workers and enhancing patient care quality. The foundation was designed with input from Amanda and other nursing leaders to address the most pressing challenges faced by healthcare professionals: inadequate educational funding, limited professional development opportunities, insufficient staffing levels, and lack of recognition for nursing expertise and contributions to patient care. "This foundation represents my commitment to supporting the healthcare heroes who provide the kind of expert, compassionate care that saved my life," Marcus announced at the foundation's inaugural event, which was attended by nursing leaders, hospital administrators, and healthcare policy experts from across the country. The foundation's programs included nursing scholarships for students from diverse backgrounds, continuing education grants for practicing nurses seeking advanced certifications, research funding for nursing innovations and best practices, and professional recognition awards that celebrated nursing excellence and contributions to patient care. Amanda was invited to serve as the foundation's executive director, a role that allowed her to continue her clinical practice while also advocating for nursing professional recognition and improved working conditions throughout the healthcare industry. Her appointment provided her with a platform to influence healthcare policy and institutional practices that affected nursing professionals and patient care quality. This foundation gives us an opportunity to create systemic changes that will benefit healthcare workers and improve patient outcomes for years to come, Amanda said during her acceptance speech. Marcus's transformation from demanding patient to healthcare advocate demonstrates that positive change is possible when people are willing to learn from their experiences and commit to supporting others. The foundation's impact extended far beyond financial support to include advocacy for policy changes, professional recognition programs, and institutional reforms that improved working conditions and career advancement opportunities for nursing professionals. Marcus also used his business expertise and industry connections to advocate for healthcare policy changes that supported nursing education funding, improved working conditions, and recognition for the essential role that nurses played in healthcare delivery and patient safety. Healthcare quality depends fundamentally on the expertise and dedication of nursing professionals, Marcus testified before a congressional committee examining healthcare workforce issues. "We need to invest in nursing education, support professional development, and recognize that excellent patient care requires excellent nursing care." His advocacy efforts included lobbying for increased federal funding for nursing education, supporting legislation that improved nurse-to-patient ratios in hospitals, and promoting policies that recognized nursing as a profession requiring advanced education and clinical expertise. The story of Marcus's transformation and his partnership with Amanda became a case study used in business schools and healthcare administration programs, illustrating how patient experiences could lead to positive changes in healthcare policy and institutional culture. Medical schools began incorporating the story into curricula about patient-provider relationships, professional communication, and the importance of treating all healthcare workers with dignity and respect, regardless of patient wealth or social status. Amanda continued her nursing career with enhanced recognition and professional support, but she remained most committed to direct patient care and clinical excellence. Her experience with Marcus had demonstrated that individual interactions could create opportunities for broader systemic changes that benefited entire healthcare communities. The most important part of this story isn't the foundation or the recognition, Amanda reflected during a nursing conference where she shared her experience. It's the reminder that every patient interaction is an opportunity to demonstrate the value and expertise that nursing professionals bring to healthcare. When we provide excellent care consistently, we create respect and recognition that benefits all healthcare workers. Marcus made a complete recovery from his cardiac emergency and maintained the lifestyle modifications that supported his long-term heart health. He continued to run his technology companies, but with a fundamentally different approach that prioritized employee well-being, work-life balance, and stress management, rather than the aggressive, high-pressure culture that had characterized his previous business practices. His companies became models for corporate wellness programs, employee health support, and recognition for the healthcare professionals who provided medical services to their workforce. The changes in corporate culture improved employee satisfaction and productivity, while reducing healthcare costs and stress-related illness among his staff. My cardiac emergency taught me that business success means nothing if you sacrifice your health and relationships to achieve it, Marcus often said when speaking to other business leaders about corporate wellness and employee health programs. The best business strategy is one that supports the health and well-being of everyone involved. The Amanda Chen Excellence in Nursing Foundation continued to grow and expand its programs, eventually supporting nursing professionals in hospitals across the country and establishing partnerships with nursing schools, healthcare institutions, and professional organizations that shared its commitment to nursing excellence and recognition. 5 years after its establishment, the foundation had provided scholarships to over 500 nursing students, funded continuing education for more than 2,000 practicing nurses, and supported research projects that led to improved patient care protocols and nursing practice standards. Amanda's role as foundation director allowed her to influence healthcare policy at the national level while continuing her clinical practice and maintaining her connection to direct patient care. She testified before congressional committees, participated in healthcare policy development, and served on advisory boards that shaped nursing education and professional development programs. The foundation has created opportunities for nursing professionals to advance their education, develop their expertise, and receive recognition for their contributions to healthcare, Amanda reported during the foundation's 5th anniversary celebration. But the most important outcome is the improved patient care that results when nurses have the support and resources they need to provide excellent clinical service. Marcus's personal story of transformation continued to inspire other business leaders and wealthy individuals to examine their own attitudes toward healthcare workers and consider how they could contribute to improving conditions for medical professionals who served their communities. The partnership between Marcus and Amanda became a powerful example of how patient experiences could lead to positive changes that extended far beyond individual relationships to create systemic improvements in healthcare delivery and professional recognition. This story began with conflict and misunderstanding, but it evolved into partnership and mutual respect, Marcus reflected during the foundation's anniversary celebration. It demonstrates that people can change, that healthcare professionals deserve recognition and support, and that positive transformation is possible when we're willing to learn from our experiences and commit to helping others. The story concluded with both Marcus and Amanda continuing their respective careers with enhanced understanding of the importance of professional relationships, mutual respect, and collaborative approaches to healthcare that recognize the essential contributions of all healthcare professionals to patient care and medical excellence. The enduring lesson. The story of Marcus Wellington and Amanda Chen became more than just a personal transformation narrative. It evolved into a powerful example of how individual interactions could create systemic changes that benefited entire healthcare communities and improved patient care quality. Their experience demonstrated that wealth and status, while providing access to premium amenities and accommodations, could not override medical necessities or substitute for the expertise and dedication of healthcare professionals who had committed their careers to serving others. Amanda's professional competence and commitment to nursing excellence, combined with Marcus's willingness to learn from his experience and use his resources for positive change, created a partnership that influenced healthcare policy and professional recognition far beyond their initial patient-nurse relationship. The Amanda Chen Excellence in Nursing Foundation continued to grow and expand its impact, eventually becoming a national model for supporting nursing education and professional development while advocating for improved working conditions and recognition for healthcare workers. Marcus's transformation from demanding patient to healthcare advocate illustrated the potential for personal growth and positive change that could result from serious medical events when patients were open to learning from their experiences and healthcare professionals who cared for them. Most importantly, their story reinforced the essential truth that healthcare excellence depends on the expertise, dedication, and professional commitment of nursing staff and other healthcare workers who provide direct patient care, regardless of the setting or circumstances in which that care is delivered. The lesson that emerged from their experience was clear. Treating healthcare professionals with dignity and respect was not just morally appropriate, but essential for creating the collaborative relationships that supported optimal patient care and positive health outcomes for everyone involved. If this story touched you, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments what part resonated most with you. Until next time.